Welcome to the Arts and Antique Radio Show, where your host, nationally recognized certified appraiser Elizabeth Stewart, Santa Barbara's treasure sleuth, will help you put a value on the treasures in your own home.
Every time it rains, pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven?
So let's find out. How valuable is it?
Hello, Santa Barbara. This is your chantress of everything valuable and beautiful, Elizabeth Stewart with the Art and Antiques Radio Show. And I am here with a gentleman I'm finding incredibly fascinating. And I just want to set the scene. Introduce to you Thomas Chalk, who's new to the community. A little birdie told me that there was a new gallery going up. And I thought, there's so much downplaying of, the galleries are going under, the antique stores are going under here in town. And I thought, this is a success story. This is a story of somebody who came to town about 6 months ago and said, yeah, I'm going to open a gallery. And it's going to be very, very different. And I'll tell you how it's different. So anyway, dear listener, last night I went to meet Thomas in his new space, which is called INFUSION Gallery, which is on Cota Street right before it hits Milpas. I walked in. First of all, the space is incredible, but I walked in and I thought, fantastic. There's such a vibe in the space. Thomas, what he did was he's shopped all over the country for super interesting things that could be old, could be industrial, could be wonderful contemporary art, but you go in and there's these pristine stainless steel bank vault gates as you go into the space. The old kind of bank vaults. And that's the introduction to the gallery in a black cube. You go through the cube, there's these beautiful, beautiful vault gates from the early 1900s. And then you go into a space that Thomas himself, with his own hands, has recreated out of sort of an old warehousey kind of place. Redone the ceiling, rocked the walls. The floors are fantastic. And what the collection is, it's a collection of deco, it's a collection of modern, it's a collection of Chinese and very, very simple lines in general. And then Thomas's signature, dear listener, is this fantastic eye where he will shop strange places, very strange places, like industrial dumps, for example. And he will take old cabinets, in other words, from the 40s, those aggressive-looking kind of office cabinets or utility cabinets that you remember seeing in the 1940s office. He'll actually paint them with incredible colors, or he'll find old foundry molds that are huge, the size of a wall. And they stand alone in the gallery as works of art and sculpture, along with beautiful ceramics, fantastic found items. I remember one beautiful repoussé copper plate, the kind you'd see, for example, repeated on an elevator door in a deco style. And Thomas has brought this vision to Santa Barbara, where you are comfortable sitting on two gorgeous gold sofas, very clean lines, very contemporary, and Thomas is serving you a wonderful cup of spiced tea, and you are looking around and you're thinking, gosh, that would look great in my house. But you see it's in your house because you're in the scale of your house. Do you understand what I'm saying, listener? You're not just looking at a canvas on a white cube wall. You're looking at the artwork, the found items, and the recreated items in a livable space. And I want to welcome to the show Thomas Chalk, and I want to start by asking Thomas, hello, Thomas.
Good morning, Santa Barbara.
Hello, there you go. Thomas, where'd you grow up?
I was born in Chicago when my father was at Cook County. He was an EMT doctor. And then I moved back to Hawaii, and I went to Punahou, where Barack Obama graduated from. And then I went to the University of Oregon, and I have a degree in landscape architecture. And then I was trying to find myself as a youngster, and so I traveled around all over the place. And finally, I went back to Hawaii, and I established a wholesale poinsettia nursery where I supplied all the major shopping centers in Honolulu and Long's Drugstore and most of the major hotels.
For how many years?
Almost 25 years of dealing with insects and spraying and trying to be so meticulous that it drove Paul Ecke, who was the supplier of poinsettias, nuts, because every year I'd want to have the best, and I'd always bug them and say, how can I do this better? How can I do this better? And they'd say, Thomas, go away. We're tired of you. But that's how I am. And then in 2004, I decided it was just too much work and I was getting older. And I turned 50. And so I said, well, there has to be something better in life. So I sold the business and then I tried to find myself. And I just turned 60. And in the last 10 years, I've collected things. I've traveled. I've gone back to school. And my main joy was that I took my parents' house that my father built in 1960, and it was a single-story, very bland house with no character to it. And I spent
and that was in Hawaii?
In Honolulu,
in Honolulu,
yes.
Okay.
And I spent 4 years and several $100,000 renovating it to something that's just amazing. And later on, if you'd like, come over and visit. I'll give you the website where you can actually go and visit the site, but it's just amazing.
So that made you, that transformation of that house, that sort of gave you the confidence to actually transform this space as well here in Santa Barbara?
Well, actually what happens, it's really strange because I guess it's like everybody, you just sort of do things and you just presume everybody else can do what you can do.
Yes.
And so one day I was talking to one of my very good friends, and every year in I would have friends over for Chinese New Year's. And so she and her husband had flipped houses for years, and they'd buy, something sort of mundane and make it nicer. And she said, oh, I'll just drop her for 10 minutes, and then I have to leave because I'm really busy. And so here I had about 30 or 40 guests in my house for Chinese New Year's, and then she came, and I was just so excited. I spent half an hour with her and neglected all my other friends, but she couldn't believe that I could do what I do. And I said, well, why can't you?
Yeah,
because
right.
I just do it. And this is what I'm hoping to bring to Santa Barbara. It's a new way of looking at things. And
yes, it definitely is. And so my second question to you, now we know your background. First of all, I have to say, I don't, the background does not give me an excuse for saying that you have an incredible eye. I mean, I've been in this field for 23 years. You have such an eye. And it sort of expands to all things. So it's not just an eye for art, but it's an eye for scale, and it's an eye for mass, an eye for color, and then an eye for also what I would consider the opportunity of an item. So you see a foundry mold, and you say, God, that's a piece of sculpture. I have to have that. And how much do a mold like that? They must weigh a couple tons. I mean, basically, but it works so well together. And that whole, I think it's a vision for the new age, basically, because, it's not just one style. It's not just, okay, I'm going to be Zen now, or I'm going to be French Provincial now, or I'm going to be Spanish Colonial. It's a massive, great line from everywhere you've traveled and everywhere you've gone and collected these things. Now we have the opportunity to see them in harmony and talk to you about how you did it in the new space on Milpas. Well, no, Cota, right
Yes.
close to Milpas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, and we're going to go to the break pretty soon, so I want you to think about this one. How did you come by your design aesthetic? What were your inspirations, and how did this happen for you? In every artist's life, there's sort of icons or mentors that we pull from. So I want to talk to you when we get back from the break. Where did you get your design aesthetic? It's incredibly unique. I've seen it all. Yours is really unique, and I want to know how it came to be. So, Richard, let's quickly go to break, then we'll talk with Thomas when we get back. Don't turn that dial, dear listener.
Island reggae bands breaking into the countdown in at number 7. Love You Like I Did, the mass appeal sounds of One Groove.